Welcome to Flair UK, Legends in Bartending. And today we have the legend, wait for it, Dairy, Russel Ward. You can see I've been watching How I Met Your Mother. So again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I got your list of accomplishments and it's like filled my whole page. So where do we begin? Well, you started in 2004, I do believe. So at the time, the film that came out was Shrek 2. Usher had the #1 song with Yeah, that's what it was. And the #1 TV program was Sopranos. So in 2004, and so before obviously you went to Fridays, what was you doing?
So, my career in bartending started in a little British bar called the Traveller's Rest out in Zante in 2001. So, my auntie and uncle bought the bar, I reckon, when I were about 14, 15 year old. So, as a family, we'd travelled to Zante to visit my auntie and uncle. And when I turned, well, at 18, I moved away to uni. Failed, didn't like it, didn't work out, so moved back home and basically went on holiday in 2001 and never came home. Basically stayed there. Had a couple of jobs working in a hotel bar, working in a hotel kitchen, and then eventually worked for my auntie and uncle for the back end of the season 2001, and then did the next 3 seasons until 2004. So
Did they do cocktails out there?
Not really in the Traveller's Rest, no. They were much more pub service, you know. And I didn't actually spend much time behind the bar. My auntie and uncle did the bar. I were pretty much front serving tables, because the bar was literally, it was like a 1-station bar. Okay. And it was just table service. So, you know, if I did anything, I opened bottles and pulled pints and maybe learnt how to make a Blue Lagoon. Oh. But while I were out in Zante for them 4 years, everyone who worked, so the bar weren't on the main strip in Zante in Laguna, it were offset on the, like a road going to Kalamaki. But then the main strip in Laguna, the big clubs, Rescue, Zeros, Bad Boys, Cherry Bay, pretty much were full of Fridays bartenders for the summer.
Oh, so did you, at that time, did you know about Fridays then?
Well, I knew of Fridays from visiting the restaurant in Sheffield, but the guys that were out there were Flair. So I'd finish work, I'd go out every night, obviously. I was 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-old.
Yeah.
So the guys who kind of became my bartending friends were Fridays bartenders. So Sam Clayton, Stretch, Simon Rogers, all them guys were working out there.
Wow.
Sam Clayton was my next door neighbour one season. So these guys were top quality Flair bartenders from the early 2000s. So, and all they did was work for Fridays in the winter. I think that's the idea that I got. So I used to watch them guys and be like, "That's cool," you know, like that. What they're doing behind the bar, I'd love to do.
So there's no TGI Fridays in Zante?
Nah.
Oh, I've never been, so I wouldn't know. So
not then, no. I don't know if there is now. There is in Cyprus, in Greece, and there's a few in Greece, but not in Zante. So I mean, I used to watch what they were doing and maybe flip a water bottle when I were at work. You know what I mean? Try and stall it on the back of your hand, because you'd watch them guys. But yeah, that's kind of where I first saw Flair bartending, was in Zante. But like I say, I weren't Flair, and if anything, I came home in the winter and had a part-time job in a local bar restaurant. And some of the guys there did practice Flair, but not to that level that I saw in Zante. But it gave me a chance to go behind the bar and actually hold a bottle and tin and have a go. But nothing compared to when I joined Fridays.
So how did the Fridays thing come about then? So you just come back for the winter or something?
Yeah, so I came back end of October 2004 and obviously needed a job. Made the decision to not go back to Zante, so I knew that I was staying back in the UK. Obviously, that what I'd seen from them guys flaring, and if you wanted to make a career of being a bartender, I'd heard that Fridays would be a good place to go and get trained. Plus, I wanted to flare, and I knew that I could do it there. So I'd got a few moves. I could do a very small sequence of, did they call it window washing, where you like go like up and down?
Yeah.
It had a name for it, didn't it? Like I could do that. I could roll a tin down my arm, catch it down my back. So no CV, no nothing. Walked into Fridays in Sheffield and basically just asked to speak to a manager.
Yeah.
Said, I've done 4 seasons in Zante and I can start tomorrow. and luckily they needed somebody, because normally at that time of year, I'd have already got the team ready for Christmas. But for whatever reason, they were missing they were a spot, and they basically said, yeah, come back in 2 days and do an OJE. So no interview, just come in 6 o'clock and off you go. So I did my OJE, and obviously it went well, and I pretty much started straight away full time.
So did you do the 4 weeks training, or you just was thrown in the deep end?
Thrown in the deep end, if I'm going to be honest. I had a good coach at the time, a guy called Flair. Flair was South African guy.
Yeah.
He'd got plenty of experience. I think he'd been well over 10 years in the industry. From South Africa, he'd worked in one of the Arab countries, and he basically worked in nightclubs, and he could flair, like really could. I mean, not multiple items, but like solid, smooth bottle and tin. He used to have this move where he kind of rolled the bottle around his hand just continuously like this. Even now, I've still never figured out how he did it. Do you know what I mean? But what he also could do is he could hold a Flair show on a Saturday night.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And like walking into Fridays, maybe my first week, and it's like, oh, Furlow's going to do a Flair show at 7 o'clock. And then you stand there and watch him do it and think, that's good. That's like everybody, so the dub-dubs would go out, bring everybody up from the tables.
Wow.
So like at Sheffield, I think they called it a shotgun bar. Did they the same as Basildon?
Yeah, shotgun bar. Yeah.
Free-sided bar with the service bar at the back.
Yeah.
And an upper dining, so you'd have the tables like kind of overlooking.
The shotgun is normally just a straight bar, isn't it? That's normally just a straight bar.
Right. So like the free-sided bar, upper dining, kind of looking over it.
Yeah.
So the dub-dubs would go out and be like, right, 5 minutes, the guy's going to do a Flair show on the bar. They'd literally bring the entire restaurant up onto upper dining and round the bar. I think there's maybe you get easily 100 people watching. Like everyone had come up. Tunes on full blast, and Furlow would just go on there and do like 3 or 4 minutes. Place would just go mad, and I'd stand there and watch it and be like, "I need to practice because I want to do that." You know what I mean?
So you joined in 2004, and your first comp was in 2005. So you're in Sheffield still, aren't you? You're still in Sheffield?
Yeah.
TGI Fridays. Did you have to work through the actual bartenders to become like number one, or was it?
So I've heard your interviews of other people, so I think that must have been something that they did in the bigger stores and maybe like a bit before I joined. But if anything, I joined, and obviously Thurlow was kind of what would be a head bartender because he was the guy that was training everyone. I just worked through my certification, obviously passed it as quick as I could. But then the competition came round pretty quick. So I joined end of October, beginning of November. It'll have been March, April, May time. So it weren't less like 6 months. And at that point, what you did is every bartender from every store sat tests.
Yeah.
And one guy from each store went to the competition. So you had no choice. If you won your in-store, someone represented every single Fridays at a regional. Whereas later on, they lost that because I think some of the stores that didn't have bartenders that wanted to do it still sent somebody, and it went pretty nice for them. Yeah. Told you go.
But it was just one of the ones where you go like at the beginning, there was quite say you had a store where you had like say Covent Garden where they had like back in '96 they had 5 master bartenders probably plus, and they all wanted to do the UK final but only could pick one. So I remember going in and this happened quite a few times where you had 2 or 3 good bartenders in one store, but only one person could represent the store.
Yeah.
So it was like quite a competitive stage. But again, back then they used to have their own little mini challenges. So you would have like Sheffield Challenge or Lakeside Challenge, and it did bring the people in though, and it made what I think it gave people a little bit more exposure than they would have
That's
normally
exactly
had.
what the US do. So their in-store competition, whereas so that first year I did it, there were me, Thurlow, a guy called Tarek, and Neil. So there were 4 of us went and sat a recipe test and a pour test. That was pretty much what it was, and a trivia test. I doubt we did a speed round, and we definitely didn't do a front bar routine. Whereas in the US, the first round is a full competition with every single test, including a front bar routine.
Yeah.
So they'll do it on a certain night, and they advertise it, and they get people down, and they make a full event of it. So that one that I did the first time, I won the in-store. So I got the highest score. So then I'm sent to the regionals to represent Sheffield. Never seen a Fridays competition in my life. Thurlow's giving me some advice because he'd done the previous year.
How did he do anyway? Did he do good in competition?
I think he did quite well. He didn't make the final, but I think he held his own in the regional.
Yeah.
I think our regional at the time included Birmingham, Coventry, Sutton. The competition were at Sutton Coldfield, and I think the Midlands at that time had strong bartenders. You know, coming from stores, really established stores like Birmingham and Coventry.
Well, in 2004, the #1 bartender was John O'Parry.
Yeah.
Flair was Tony Adams.
Yeah.
Charles and Leon won the tandem.
Yeah, so it were all Haymarket, Covent Garden,
and Blue Water there. So that's quite cool. So yeah, so in did you?
So I did the 2005 one regional.
Yeah, so Pete Marshall was everywhere then. So
yeah, so I rocked up, and my main goal was to get into the Flair final. If I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
The best bartender competition I did because I'd won the in-store. I probably didn't really revise. I certainly didn't practice a routine. I just kind of went with the mindset of I want to make the final in Flair, even just the regional final, because you went and did heats in the morning, and then they picked maybe 5 of you to do the show at the night. And I think the first one I did get through to the Flair final, so that was like a massive achievement.
Yeah.
What I weren't prepared for was how nerve-wracking and stressful Best Bartender was. Because I've gone as like quite a confident young lad who can flair a little bit and can hold his own.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're putting a microphone on you and the place is rammed. Like you can't get any more people in there. At this point, you had a 30-second intro music, and then the music cut. There were no background music or anything. Music cut, and it was you and the judges. And I think the judges could pick from 100 club drinks. You know, you didn't get to choose any drink at all. They just ordered. And literally a minute before I went on, I was ready to run out the back door. Because I've never been so scared in my life of doing that first best bar. I don't think, because it's a job, isn't it? You're a bartender, it's a job. That's not like doing a job. There's nothing to prepare you for doing a routine in front of all them people.
So in 2005, was that Bayswater? Is it still Bayswater?
No, so the regional was at Sutton Coldfield.
Sutton Coldfield.
Sutton Coldfield, yeah. So again, it was a similar size bar to what we had in Sheffield. So like quite a small bar area.
Do you get into the UK finals in the 2005?
No. I would confidently say I probably came last.
I can't imagine that.
In the regional, because looking back now, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the scoring. I just literally turned up. I remember Danny Harris was the guy organising it that day. So you got a guy who's won it before.
Yeah.
I think I walked on to do my pour test, and I didn't even have like pour spouts with me or anything. You know, I just like walked on. He was like, right, do pour test. Your bottles are there. I'm like, oh, you got some pour spouts? It's like, you know, your own. I'm like, nah, just give me some pour spouts. I'll just do it. And then like the like sensitivity test is asking like, again, this is like a UK winner. He's like, right, just melon ball, and they actually recite it. You know what I mean? Like recite texture this, and I'm like, I don't know. You don't even have melons in Sheffield. Like,
yeah, what's a melon?
and he's like, well, here's a melon baller. Make me a melon ball. I'm like chopping this thing up, and it's like comes out like a triangle. And I was trying to roll it along the bar top, and it's just like a mess. Honestly, like, it took me like a few years to realise that the best bartender competition was like every point was it was perfection. To score the points, you had to do everything by the book. And even when I went to my first UK final, which will have been when Vinny won, so that was 2008, I got through to the UK final.
Yeah.
And again, I went to the UK final then as best bartender finalist, probably because my region weren't very strong, if I'm going to be honest. The regional, I went and won, but it was because I didn't really have any competition at that time. But I got through to Flair, which were like, I've got Flair finalist. And I really wanted to go 2008 to the final and be crowned best Flair bartender. That was what my mindset was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'd also got through to the final of best bartender.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is 2008. Yeah.
2008. So I'd done a couple of comps previous. Then I finally made the final just because I was the one who turned up, and I'd done it a few years before. Anyway, I go to the final for best bartender. Everything's been sent through to you. Tony Adams was obviously, he was running it at this point, so he was running the final. All the drinks have been sent out to you, 100 recipes or whatever, very similar to what you do at Worlds. I'd read through them. I'll be honest. I'd read through them, and I'd probably learned half of them. Do you know what I mean? I was fully focused on winning Flair.
Yeah.
Anyway, get to London for the final, and everyone's put in hotel rooms with different guys, different bartenders. Yeah. My roommate is Friendy, who I've never met. I don't know if I've met him before or not. I turned up to the hotel room, and Friendy could read the book to me without having the book open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like from start to finish, everything. He knew absolutely everything. Every cocktail recipe, every drink spec, every liquor sensitivity. He knew, and I literally sat there and I'm like, yeah, I've learned like 50. I've like read through it, but I'm here to win Flair kind of thing. Yeah. But that was like the first realization of I ain't got a chance in that comp going against someone like this. Yeah, like he's going to score 100% on everything. You know, on the technical testing because he knows it, and he's put the time in to do it. Anyway, I didn't win the Flair, and I definitely didn't win best bartender. But that was my first taste of the UK final, and to meet more bartenders who weren't just Flair bartenders, were actually putting the work in to do every single, just everything.
What I find interesting is like when you talk to some of the bartenders that have done like have gone to the World Championships and stuff like that, they normally have like instant success. But you haven't. You started in 2004, and your first UKs was like 2000 and like was it 2008?
2008.
4 years. 4 years. So in 4 years, you obviously. I know how passionate you are about how you do stuff. Yeah. But 4 years, you must have just gone, is this ever going to happen? Because like
I weren't focusing on winning best bartender at all.
You were just happy just doing the job.
Doing the job, and I'd got where the house that I lived in, I had a loft conversion, right? That was my practice room.
Okay.
So yeah, I would literally every spare second be in that room flaring. Tunes on full blast. I'd lose 3-4 hours at a time just practicing. And in them 4 years, away from doing the Fridays yearly competition, any Flair comp in the north of England, I never went to Roadhouse. And I don't know why. I think maybe just a little bit of fear of not being good enough might have been one thing. But I literally practiced from buying 2004 when I joined. For 2005 it'll have been, I think. Roadhouse released their entire grand final as like a 10 DVD pack, and it had every single routine from every bartender through the entire grand final. So hours upon hours of Flair bartending. Yeah. I bought that pack and watched them DVDs hundreds of times because there were no YouTube. I didn't have YouTube, and from start to finish, every disc, just sit and watch it. Then the next day in the practice room, just flaring like mad, and it kind of took elements from different bartenders that I were watching. So on the Roadhouse DVD, you had obviously Neil Garner, Neil Lowry, Tom Dyer, Christian Delpeche, Adriano, and then you had because this DVD pack was so extensive, you had all the earlier entrants in it. So guys I don't think Ginge were on it, but there were a lot of bartenders that you wouldn't say were in the top 10 in the world, but you could watch it and take inspiration from elements of the routine that they were doing. Because away from working in my store, it was very rare that you went and saw other bartenders doing moves. Because there were no real Flair bartenders in Sheffield city centre. I couldn't go out to another bar and sit at a bar and watch somebody else do it, because there were really only us at Fridays doing it at that time. So I took everything from this Roadhouse DVD pack, and literally.
So did you ever because obviously your career spreads, obviously we see where it starts and where it ends. It's obviously it's like a fairy tale, but obviously you named the names just like that, Garner, Larry. Was there any? Did you ever meet these guys at any point in your career?
So in that time. So I joined maybe within 6 months of starting at Fridays, and all the practice that I'd put in. I went to my first comp, and I'm pretty sure it was either the first year that I went there or the second year. Neil Lowry and Neil Garner were there watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy, so the guys from Zanshin Mobile Bar, so they were based in Manchester, eventually became Cocktail Stars.
Yeah.
Got to know them guys pretty quick and started doing events literally within 6 months of starting at Fridays. And I remember Jordan Kemp once giving me a phone call, this is within a year of starting at Fridays, and he's like, there's a guys who they need somebody for an event on tomorrow, the last minute in Birmingham. Yeah, no problem, I can do it, no worries. Yeah, you'll be working for Bar Wizards. And as soon as you hear that name, don't you? You'll be working for Bar Wizards. And this is before Bar Wizards did Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
This is when Bar Wizards was the company, it was the company that did the events. And you're like, right, okay. So I drive down to a hotel where the event is, and nervous is not even a word. I'm now working with the guys who've inspired me to be a Flair bartender, who I've watched hundreds of times on DVDs, and now I'm going to be stood side by side with them on a bar.
So did you do you have a good rapport with them, or did you just lose it?
Well, obviously you know what Lowry's like. He's flaring like a madman at 500 mile an hour, and Garner's got all the technical moves, and then I'm just doing my stuff, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, they're giving you oh, do that again, what was that you just did? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, these the guy, it's like your peer group, innit? And then all of a sudden you're in it. I think there were 4 of us. I think there were another guy called Frankie who did that event, who were also, these were top Flair bartenders. And in that time, that gave me a chance to do a lot of events.
Yeah.
And at events, it weren't just going to do a shift at Fridays where you're on the bar, you might end up in the weeds a little bit on service bar. This was, you turn up and you are expected to flair every single drink for that, because that's what the guys are paid for. That's why they go to Cocktail Stars or they go to Bar Wizards, because they want the show for the entire evening. So that's what I did. I used to do these events and just go and be like, these are amazing. Money's brilliant. The money's really good. And I'm working with people who can show me more moves. And I'm not expected to again, I'm not going to moan about it too much. I'm not making Oreo milkshakes. Do you know what I mean? I'm literally making cocktail after cocktail, and I can just flare all night.
I think you got like the different like types of bartenders again, because you have that bartender which knows the recipes, that makes amazing cocktails, and then you got the other Flair bartender he's a showman. He wants to put a show on, and so yeah, there will be some pours here and there that are not right and everything else, but the show, it's all about the show. Where a cocktail bartender, it's all about the drink. So you find a balance. And to be honest with you, you probably are the perfect bartender because you do both. You do, your knowledge is really, really good. Your flair is really, really good. So, I mean, on that note, I mean, when you came to learning recipes and stuff, like, did you have any like tips on how you revise the recipes? Was it easy to learn the drinks?
I think so I'd never really put the effort in for the first few times because I just, like I keep saying, I would just walk to Flair. I think the Master Bartender program came around 2010, right? You know, the one that that we all did. So we
2011 we did the Masters, didn't we?
Yeah. So Fridays, Fridays UK, all the master bartenders kind of left. I think including yourself. I think you took a step back and gone and done something else, and then you came.
At one stage, I was the only master bartender in the country.
Yeah.
So
Dave Carroll put a training course together to certify some new master bartenders, and I think 30 bartenders applied. 20 got put on the program, and we've certified 10, maybe.
Yeah.
So a third of the people that applied eventually.
That was me as well.
Yeah. You had to do it again, didn't you?
I thought I'd get in there, yeah. So I did it because why did I do it? Because I didn't want to be left out, I guess. But
that were the time where I went, right, I've done my Flair stuff for all these years. I've probably not taken this side of it too seriously. I think the thought process for me was, do I want to stand there and see Friendy, Ade, Hero, all the other, Samson, Alex Samson, Warren, all these guys be certified masters, and me be like, oh, I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
And I were bothered because I wanted to be a master bartender. Because when you join Fridays, you hear about it. Oh, the master bartender. I remember going to one of my first Fridays comps, and there were a master bartender there. I think you were from Cardiff or something. I can't remember his name. And you're like, oh God, that guy's a master bartender. That's like the best you can ever get to. And he's like some kind of mythical beast, you know.
I just to say now, I remember when we did the Masters, because I think I shared my room with you. I think I did. Was that the Masters? I can't remember.
So I was thinking about this. So the first time you were talking about things that inspire you to do. Yeah. So like one of the things I think back on is going to that hotel room and seeing Friendy with all the stuff, knowing everything.
Yeah.
I'll always remember that and thinking that guy knows everything. And then the time when we go to do the Master Bartender program, and you get there and they say to us, oh, these are your rooms. And they just did it in alphabetical order. So it were Russ and Rob. You know what I mean? So Russ and Rob, you're in that room. And then that's the first time. And you've got like, that guy's been a master bartender for a long time. He's won the UKs. And then you're in a room together and you just talk bartending. I think we like spent about 6 hours just sitting there talking through what it was at Fridays, bartending away from Fridays.
I do this with my girlfriend, by the way, as well. and it's for 6 hours as well. So yeah, that's foreplay in my house.
Well, yeah, you're right. So you end up where you've put 10 or 20 guys who want to be master bartenders together, and all you do is talk about how you're going to pass the master bartender program.
Oh, do you know? I was saying that with Friendly, because obviously you know how because with me, if I got something, I keep it in my head a lot. Like competition, especially with competitions, it's like you don't want to show everyone what you know. Yeah. And so you sit there and listen. I listen a lot sometimes, and I remember listening to the people talking about the recipes. and they're all going da 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 and everything else, and I'm listening, going, that's wrong, that's wrong. Like, and then Friendly started talking, and I was like, oh my god, like this guy, like, and I can't even remember what drink it was, but it wasn't a straightforward drink. It was like Ramos Gin Fizz or something like that, and so you had to get it right all the time. And I remember him just saying it, just like run it off, like literally, and I was like, yeah, that is right. And I was like, he knows his stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
really knows his stuff. And I was like, for me to say that was like, that's, yeah.
Once we started doing the Master Bartender program, and then I started knuckling down with revising the book from start to finish, I realised that I could, because it's daunting at first, and you think, have I got the capacity to remember all that?
Yeah.
And luckily, quite early on, I realised that I could.
Yeah. Did you write all it down on flip cards?
The only way that I could do it was to sit with A4 piece of paper and write everything down. I never had a organised Rolodex type thing. I just started from the beginning and I wrote them down. And then the next day I wrote them down again and I wrote them down again. And I worked my way from start to finish. And my wife, she helped me massively, testing.
She did. She kept on mentioning it every time. She looked sick of it. She looked like, I think she deserved the break at the end of all of it. She was like, oh my god, it's like, it's quite funny because she probably knows the drinks better than half the bartenders in the country. because of what she's had to do.
So Claire obviously a dub at Fridays.
Yeah.
And she was a massive fan of Fridays. She bought into it. She were in-store trainer. Like, we both, like, once I started doing Master Bartender, I felt like I'd gone to that next level of caring about everything and everything.
How did you feel like when you became a master bartender? Did it mean a lot to you then to be a master?
Yeah, because I knew the work that I'd put in would then worth something. And because Fridays at that point didn't have any, we were like the next generation as such of master bartenders. So it were an amazing achievement to pass it, because everyone who you've talked to who has done it will know how, or even people that have attempted to do it and not passed it, I'll tell you how difficult it is to do it. So yeah, it were a massive achievement, but it's purely because of doing the Master Bartender program that I then went on to win the UK finals. Because
but when you got because you done your masters in 2011, so you knew your knowledge was good enough to do a UK final by that time, and so, I mean, it's a big stretch. I mean, joining that's 6, so 7 years bartending to get to a UK final. So that's you've done your you deserve to do a UK final. You're in the UK final. So
the regional every single time it were on. But then there were guys that were better. They tested better, and like, everyone sees the show, don't they? Like, everyone turns up at a regional final, and they watch everybody do the front bar routines, and they go, "Well, he should have won." Like, his routine were amazing, and you're like, "Yeah, but he missed a lemon squeeze out of his Long Island and didn't put amaretto in his Paradise Punch on speed round. That's why he's not won. He hasn't made the drinks properly."
I mean, going through all this, because of where you end up is like just absolutely amazing, and it's just one of the ones where, like, beforehand, it just seemed to be you've been around forever before you even achieved anything. So the Masters seemed to be the first step, and it was like, but because I know you for like through the competitions and everything else, just for some reason your presence was always like known. So there was always, like, no doubt. I mean, people will watch your Flair, it's good, and your Flair is good. But there's always that element, even just like talking to you, over the years, I knew that, you know your stuff, and you don't, when people are blagging you and everything else. So when it came to the Flair aspect, because I have to get it in there, the cherry on the stick, It's on everything you do. Sent me a great picture of the cherry just in mid-flight going onto the stick, which is awesome. I will post that on Facebook soon. But yeah, I mean, was there any signature moves you came up with? Which would you say?
The cherry on a stick thing is that's not anything that I came up with. People have been doing that for years, and I'd literally never seen anyone do it. I think a guy who was bar manager or kitchen manager at Sheffield, a guy called Woody, literally walked up to me one day and he went, "Oh, when I were in Barcelona, there was this guy caught a cherry on a stick. Can you do that?" That was literally what Woody said to me. And I went on the bar and had a few goes at it, and eventually I caught it. So it's like, oh yeah, actually this is pretty cool. So I used to do talking like I said about Thurlow doing the Flair shows in store. Obviously, after 6 months of practicing, I then stepped up, started doing Flair shows in Sheffield, and I used to finish the Flair show by catching the cherry on a stick, and I could probably do it in 1 or 2, 3 goes. And everyone used to go mental. So it didn't really matter what you did in the Flair show before, as long as you caught that cherry on the stick. It used to like lift the roof off it. Yeah, and people used to come and used to chant for it. Do you know what I mean? Like cherry, you know, like because they'd come each week and see you do the Flair routine, and then they'd be waiting for you to catch the cherry on the stick. And then over time, I just thought, oh, I wonder if you start adding to it, don't you?
Yeah.
So then it was like, can I catch the cherry on a stick by throwing it over my shoulder? And that's the one that kind of ended up in the UK final, is I'd throw it over my shoulder. But in store, I used to do all sorts. I used to bump it off my arm, bang it off me, throw it over. 3 bumps trying to catch. I don't know if you've seen that video that's knocking around that I did with the helium balloon.
I think you mentioned this, and I'm not too sure whether I saw it or not.
I'll try and find it. I'll send it to you. So basically,
I think you sent. Was it in like when we was sharing the room? And
so I got helium balloon, cherry on the prism stick. So I let the balloon go. So the balloon flew up, cherry over the shoulder, hit the balloon, came back, landed on the stick.
That's nice.
Got it on camera. I mean, it's not one for the competition because it's like 1 in 10 or something of doing it. But
did you ever I mean, because obviously it became like a trademark, and as you said, people want to go and see it. Did you ever get to a stage where you got nervous about doing it all the time, and you got like, could I pull it off all the time?
So the thing is, you could have times where you'd never get it.
Oh, there was times then like that. Really? Oh, okay.
like in store, end of a Flair show, and I'm stood there, I've had like 10 goes at it, and it's like, so if you miss it the first time and get it the second time, it's like, oh well, you've kind of proven that it's not that easy.
Yeah.
By missing it 1 or 2 times, it's like, oh well, look, that's difficult. You can't just do it. And then, honestly, pure luck, or maybe it's just because of adrenaline or whatever. UK final, I seem to get it first time.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, it's like you do it on like where you can do it like in the regionals, or doing it like on the bar at home is one thing, but to do it in a UK final when everyone's watching is a gutsy move, and it's just like.
Then so 2008 is the one where I really wanted to go and win Flair.
Because
Frodo
Richard won, didn't he? Frodo won it.
Amazing routine. Didn't drop anything. Smooth as you like. Just nailed it.
Because this is the year that the straw thing came out, wasn't it?
So Frodo pings the straw, absolutely perfect, out round the judges and catches it. And obviously everyone's like mind blown. Yeah.
But that is the cherry on the stick, isn't it?
But then, not my first time at Worlds, maybe my second time at the World Final, I did Frodo's move at the World Final.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm stood in a hotel room in Dallas with Claire, pinging straws. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Just literally sat in the room, nervous as hell before I go to House of Blues to do the final. Yeah. And I'm flicking straws, and they're just like hitting the window. I'm just like, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do it? Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to flick a straw and it's going to end up in row Z? Like, as I'm in my hotel, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Even though I knew I could do it beforehand, I'm sat there, can't do it. The last 30 seconds of my routine, up on stage, 1,000 people in the House of Blues, pick the straw up, and it was like the perfect one. You know, like Frodo had done in Covent Garden,
Yeah.
out, and it just came straight round the judge and straight back. And
Because was Nicholas St. John judging that one?
yeah, you were judging that comp in Covent Garden, yeah.
Yeah, because I just remember because obviously I wasn't there, but I remember still tight with the Blue Water Boys,
Yeah.
and I remember him sending me a text going, "I'm the #1 Flair bartender in the UK." But you knew, like, I know it sounds really, really weird, but I knew it was from a drunk person. So I was looking at it going, yeah, he's had a few too many, but obviously it meant the world because obviously we know like Frodo is not with us anymore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still nice to. Like when I spoke to Tony Adams, he mentioned it. We brought it up with Pete Marshall last week. So obviously, he affected a lot of people.
You know, when you go, I really, really want to win Flair, and I put all my effort into winning Flair, then I can't remember my routine being particularly well executed.
Okay.
I think I really struggled with the width of the bar being dead tight because I weren't used to it. Because at Sheffield, you've got all the space in the middle. You do events, you've got enough space to do it. And I probably dropped a lot, and the routine went to shit basically. But then you watch Frodo do his routine, and you think, well, that's how you win it.
Yeah.
That's how you win it. You didn't have to go big. You didn't have to do 4 items. You didn't have to do all that. Just do a solid routine that's entertaining, with a smile on your face, and have a finishing move that just blows everybody's mind. And then that's why you won. You know.
Well, because I mean, it sounded like a proper Rocky movie because it sounds like there's nothing really going on apart from obviously, you're in Fridays, you just got your masters and everything else. But then in 2011, you got your second place next to you got Chuck Bailey. So
this is the funny thing, right?
Go on.
That competition, 2011. I think there's 8 bartenders in the final. Is there 8 bartenders in the final or 6 bartenders in the final? Chuck's the only one that didn't certify as a master bartender.
I know, it is a crime. It is a crime. And also, and I think that UK final, there was the competition had about, I think Friendly was in it, who's won the UK. I was in it, I won the UK. And there was people have come second, third. It was the most toughest UK final ever. Because of yourself. I think it was just ridiculous how many people were master bartenders, UK finalists. It was a proper UK final.
But that was that's the one where we got the email to let us know whether we'd passed as a certified as a master bartender the day before the competition. Yeah. So I remember being around Friendy and Hero, maybe yourself, in the hotel, in the lobby, waiting for the email to come through on your phone. And Friendy might have got his first, Friendy's running around celebrating, and you're still sat there waiting for the email to come. And we're like, oh, please let me have passed. And then the next day we did the front bar routines.
Well, now, so 2011 was like, obviously it's the same year, so there's a lot going on that year. We just done the Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah.
We're in obviously synchronized pairing in Covent Garden.
Yeah.
So again, we're touching base there. We're also working on the South versus North Flair routine.
Yeah.
So that's a big. I mean, I don't know if you. I mean, we were meeting up in Covent Garden, going down to the basement bit to practice. But it was like, I mean, Chuck was taking control, and he was like going, "I will do this. We make it all the Fridays."
Yeah.
Well, we don't really know too much what was going up north because I mean, you did win. Let's be honest. I mean,
so what happened is we had 2 guys from Glasgow, John and David, who were both top, high performance, their Flair was different class, like especially just as I had both technically ridiculous. Myself, and then it were Tom Stewart and Warren who worked together at Trafford Centre. So they already had a tandem routine.
Cool.
And the guys from Glasgow kind of had a tandem routine as well. So we only met up the day before in the hotel. So because they're in Glasgow, Manchester, so we met up in the hotel. We got like a one of the like business rooms at the hotel, and we had it for like 5 hours, and we literally built the routine around the tandem routine that Warren and Tom could do, and they didn't just do it. It were like inch perfect. It was so synchronized. I think there's a video somewhere that Fridays released.
Yeah,
them two doing their tandem routine, and they didn't miss a beat. Like it were like the same, like a mirror.
Yeah.
They were so good. And then we just pieced it around that. We all did like individual slots, and then we had like a grand finale where we all came together. But that routine, Tom and Warren, pretty much.
They sorted all that. What happened to the because obviously you got the propeller. Where did that go?
Oh no, I think it might have been in Trafford Centre, to be fair.
Stuck up somewhere down there. Because I got a story because you came second. I mean, I saw Chuck's front bar and it was amazing. His front bar was just it blew everyone away. It was really, really good. But again, your front bar was really, really good. Do you know, like, I mean, how close it was to winning it that year? Or?
No, I mean, the only time I've ever had the score broken down after a competition is at Worlds. I don't think I've ever approached a UK final and asked for it breaking down. I think you're obviously going to know that them finals are going to be close.
Yeah. Did you make a mistake on front bar, or that you was aware of?
No, it must have been a pour test. Must have been points dropped there. Maybe some points dropped on speed round. But I know that recipes from the moment I did masters in that year, from then on, for the rest of the competitions I ever did, I don't think I ever got a recipe wrong from that point.
Wow.
Because I literally knew the importance. I'd then realised that the only way to succeed in that competition was to make sure that those technical tests were near enough perfect every time. And that was the difference of me competing pre-master bartender to the bartender that turned up in those competitions after that, is that no matter what other people, no, it didn't matter what other people did. Like anyone can turn up and stand there and give it the big one, because we've all met these guys who turn up at a regional and they'd say, "Oh yeah, I know all this. You want to see my routine?" And they've got a good, well-rehearsed front bar routine, but they get 50% on the recipe test and they can't do a 2-ounce pour, and they can't, like. So I might have been that guy at some point, maybe not arrogant and showing off, but I had a very strong front bar routine, but could not do the other bit because I didn't practice it. That's purely why. It is practice.
Well, you just see in the recipes and you just go like, I do my best and I think I've done really well, but you always think you've done really well. Because you make one mistake and it's all wrong, but you'll have people coming out going, "Oh, that was easy, that was it." And you'll be like, "I don't know what test you've done." But I didn't find that
there were always one or two bartenders, never at the UK final, because once you got to the final, the standard was different class. So you knew at the UK final that everybody was going to score well.
Deserves to be there. I've got a funny story for you, because this never got onto camera when I done Andy Rose. Now Andy Rose has came second 4 times in the UK final. Okay, he's so this is back in I think it was 2000. In 2000 he came back and he was up against Guy Minsell. And this was off camera, so he did. But we said this, and I actually said I've got to say the story because it's just so sad. So he's come back. He's come second 3 times, and so he's an amazing bartender, absolutely incredible. And he asked for a juice from the bar back, and the bar back threw the wrong juice to him. and he made the drink completely wrong because of this juice. And he looked down, and his points were he lost the UK's by 5 points because he lost the whole drink,
Yeah.
and he lost by 3 points overall from
Wow.
winning the UK final. And
Yeah.
that was because of a bar back from the wrong juice. And when he told me, I was like, oh man, that sucks. It's this one of the ones, it just wasn't, yeah, it's brutal. It just wasn't meant to be. So you just sometimes think to yourself, like,
So
when your luck is in, it's in, isn't it?
yeah, and that's kind of been the story of my world finals.
Not really. Oh, okay.
If I'm going to be honest, yeah.
We'll get to that.
We'll
So
get to that, yeah. But yeah,
oh, I mean, okay, right. So
going back
you've
to
just got
2011,
second.
what we didn't mention though is previous to 2011, every final had been held at Covent Garden, or the
Okay.
ones that I'd done. This one is when they moved it to the O2, and that was like, it really became, it came for me especially, certified as a master bartender, rock star on stage. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
we're at the O2, there's like over 1,000 people there watching, you're on stage, and you can play your music as loud as you want. If you do your routine, you play your music, and that for me, I reckon, looking back, became quite addictive. You know, all of a sudden the competition weren't just in Fridays; it were a Fridays competition.
Yeah.
But like, you guys, we went through all the master bartender thing. We were told you're going to be the best. You're going to be the new master bartenders for the UK. And I really, really bought into how, you know, like, not being cocky, not being arrogant, just being the best, you know, inspiring people, you know. And I think being on stage in these big venues, because we went on from O2, we went to Wembley, we went to those big hotels in Liverpool. I then got like, you walk off stage and you're adrenaline, like, it's more than just doing a show as such, isn't it? Like, you get lost in it all, and it's like 8 minutes that feels like 30 seconds.
Did you have groupies? Did you? Or is this that?
No,
Just people. Oh, that's Russell, the good
but
bartender.
that whole Fridays at that point were you sent everybody to the final. Like, you had everyone from every store, like, going to these finals. Like, the finals were massive, huge events. So you'd walk off stage, and everyone's coming up to you like, oh, that were amazing. People you don't know just coming up, shaking your hand. And I think at that point it were like hitting such a high that it were like, I just want to do that again.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't want the competition to come round and me not do that.
Did you ever have any bartender that you used to look up to and go, like, obviously we talked about from day one when you had you had a good role model to work from. Was there anyone that from like Zante or anywhere that you would go?
So starting off, it were the guys that were flaring. So back in Zante, I watched like Sam Clayton and Simon Rogers, and then Stretch. Obviously, Stretch were amazing flair bartender. And then starting off just watching the Roadhouse DVDs, again, that were just purely flair. There were nothing really that's on them routines that is bartending as an actual technical bartending skill. So it were so Tony had left, Pete had pretty much left before I got to the final. So I didn't really see or know much about them guys. So for me, it would go into regionals and meeting Friendy, Dave Brolly, Hero, Adi, you know, guys from like Manchester. Then from the Midlands, you had like Scooby. Who else were down there? There were a lot of like people that had been there for similar time to me. That were, I always thought that I weren't as good as them, if that makes sense. So it weren't like, in theory, looking back, we were probably all the same. We were all traveling along the same path, growing as bartenders at the same time. But when you were only meeting them maybe once or twice a year, you turn up and go, God, he's improved, or like, he knows that now. And from them guys, especially the ones that I've just named, and going to regionals, I never felt like we were competing against each other as such. I never felt that Friendly, even though we competed against each other many times and he beat me on occasions and then I went on to beat him a few times, we could openly push each other. Do you know, when we all did the Master Bartender program, everyone wanted to pass it. So everybody helped each other to pass it, if that makes sense. Because you couldn't, there were times where you couldn't just do it on your own. Like I had Claire helping me. I'm sure other bartenders had friends or spouses or whatever who helped them.
Oh, wow.
But when you eventually met with every bartender at a competition, I never thought, oh, I want to beat him. You know what I mean? I want to beat the tests. I want to score the most points because I don't want whoever writes the test can't put something down that I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how I always approached it.
I think you compete with yourself a lot. I mean, so you sort of go, as you said, I mean, if you know everything, then you should be able to write everything down.
Yeah.
So you constantly always going like, are you better than you was the year before that? So you're always trying to some kind of improve your, your ability kind of thing. So eventually,
but I don't think some people in Fridays, not just bartenders, because there were a lot of bartenders who definitely didn't realise, but I think a lot of people, other team members, dubs, managers, kitchen, who went to watch.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time, there were some negativity, to be fair, towards me getting that run. Like once I'd won it sort of like 2 or 3 times, there were guys, because at the finals, the people who aren't competing drink a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they drink a lot and then they openly tell you what they think. Yeah. So you've got people, when I've won 2 in a row or 3 in a row, saying, oh, you just turn up every year and just win it. Why don't you give someone else a chance? It's like, well, if you realise how much work I'm putting in, I'm not just turning up and winning. If it were that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Well, let's talk about your winning streak. I mean, okay, so like you've just came second. Did you was you happy with the second place?
Well, yeah, of course. If you're looking at the UK final and we talk about the standard of the UK final, Chuck winning, the next, again, we've never seen the points, but Chuck might have beat 5 bartenders by 5 points.
Yeah.
It might have been, we will never know, but the standard of them competitions, it could have been like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Yeah.
It could have been 10 points between us all.
I think the good thing was that you got a place in. So like most people, to win it straight away would be like, well, it's only a few people that have ever done that. And so a lot of people do have to do the third, second, and build up to winning it. So you've got the second place. You're buzzing. You've got everything.
You got a Master Bartender pin as well.
Master Bartender pin. So it's a good run. And I think a lot of people then going, this could be your year next year, and obviously it was.
Yeah.
So did you as soon as you walk off the stage, did you go, let's start prepping, or let's just have some time out, and then we'll begin the process of actually going for it? Did you ever want to just call it a day at that time? Because you've been bartending for 7-8 years then, or are you still buzzing?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'd not won, so there were always something to strive for. Yeah. So I finished second. I've always looked at it as, well, if I'm going to enter it, I'm going to put everything into it. So even when I was doing mainly focusing on Flair, I was putting hours in to make sure that I would practice, I was doing a good Flair routine. So with the Master Bartender thing and my mentality of it slightly changing and being more focused on the technical side of everything, and then you still have a hell of a lot of work to do. It's not just that you've done it and then you can turn up to the next competition and be like, well, I've done this before, I remember it. There's so much to remember. You've got to keep remembering it.
I forget when I walk off the stage. I'm like, I've been on furlough and my brain's like mush. I don't know, like, I'm surprised I know a Long Island.
So you can't really stop, because I think if you stop, you've then got a big bulk of work to do again. Yeah. So in a way, you've got to keep going to keep it fresh.
So when so the year you won, 2012.
Yeah,
Where was this? Was it in
Manchester.
Manchester? Oh, was it the UK final?
Yeah,
Was it Manchester?
we were at a hotel, a huge, like theatre style room in a hotel in Manchester. Yeah.
So who came second that year?
Oof. Maybe Ashley Morley.
Oh, okay, yes, because obviously there was that the year where you both drew.
That was a year after. Yeah.
That was a year after. So you're standing there. It's like we joined in what 2004, so that's 6, 7, 8 years later.
Yeah.
You've done all your tests again. You know, UK final, the UK champion, 2012,
Yeah.
Russel.
Yeah. Well,
How-
it's there's no better feeling, really, is there? You've kind of built up to literally what is the highest achievement in Fridays bartending in the UK is being. I'm not obviously Flair. I would have loved to have won Flair because I can imagine that winning Flair is as much of an achievement as winning best bartender. But because I then started to realise how much work I'd put into doing best bartender,
yeah,
you were like, wow, this is the. And the other thing were when I got announced as winner in 2012, Karen announced that I would go straight to the Worlds because previous bartenders had to do Europeans. Yeah, so because Fridays had expanded to a size where it warranted its own place in the final. I think UK Fridays had more stores than the rest of Europe.
yeah.
So what the world final organisers or people at Friday's head office had said is the UK can come straight to Worlds. You don't have to compete against Scandinavia and the other guys. So I got announced as winner and at the same time got told you're in the Worlds. So that's like, wow. But I actually, the Europeans were in Manchester. So I went to watch the Europeans before I went to Worlds.
Who won that? Do you know?
So it was a guy from, he was Norwegian, but he worked in Sweden, I think.
I think I remember you telling me his story once before.
So he was trained by the previous world winner. So David Kringland beat Chuck. So Chuck went to Worlds, Kringland won. I think Chuck finished second.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, so David Kringland beat Chuck, and then I went against the guy that David had trained.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Because like, as I said, like from day one, it's all about, or we'll say it was all about winning the UKs because you was into your Flair. Yeah. But eventually, obviously, you at the end probably got your heart set. I'm going to win a UK final. Then you win the UK final. Did you at any point throughout the years did you think I want to win the world finals, or was you just like I want to win the UKs?
It dawned on me that winning the UKs would mean you're going to then compete at world final. I would have thought that I would have took one step at a time. So win the UKs, that's the achievement, and then worry about what comes afterwards.
It's a big achievement as well. I want to say because I got it wrong as well. Because I was like saying, "Oh, well done for UK championships," and you was like 5, and I was like 5. I say I need to do my homework. I was like 5 UK finals. I mean, that is absolutely it's never been done before, and it got to a stage where I mean, out of all them 5, for instance, let's focus on the UKs. Out of them 5, which one meant the most?
They were just, again, it's not about really competing, saying, oh, I'm going to beat this guy. I want to beat him. It's not that kind of competition. I never went to any competition with the mindset of, I'm going against him and he's my main competitor. Because I think maybe this is why I did quite well. Because I competed literally against the tests on every single test that I knew was coming was me versus the test.
Was there because I remember you showing me again in the world finals and you got 95 out of 95 on your pour test.
Yeah.
Was there any UK final where you went ace that? Was there 1 year that?
So the only problem with the UK final and the UK competition that I ever did is it was very rare for you to find out how you'd done.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very open competition with regards to scoring. So when you go to Worlds, you test on a different day to the competition. You do it 2 days before, and they have a big reveal of the scores at that point. So it's there in black and white on a massive board for you to see how you've done 2 days before you do the actual freestyle round. So I always went into every test really, really confidently, but my first year at Worlds was speed round, recipe test, pour test, freestyle. There were only 4 elements. There were only 4 parts to it. 100% recipe test, pretty much nailed my speed round. This year, by the way, the first year I went to Worlds, every bartender did the tests on their own recipe book.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went, and the list of drinks was my drinks from the UK.
Which is nice.
Yeah, European guy, he had his drinks. The 6, so in the US, even the 6 US guys, different franchises, different parts of the US, all had different recipe books. So everyone, yeah. So everyone, South American guys working off his book, Asian guys working off his book. Everyone's working off their own book. So speed round, again, smashed it because it were on my drinks. And then they reveal the thing, and my pour tests were crap. I'd gone from 100% speed round, 100% recipe test, near enough 100% speed round, which would have put me, if I'd have done a very good pour test, in first, second, or third going into the thing, 8th place.
Wow.
Like literally, like if it were at 100 points, like 70, I dropped like 30 points. And with the pour test, it's not like you sit and write it down and you go, oh, I've made a stupid mistake or whatever. I clearly were miscounting, or there was something that were putting me off, or I just massively dropped it. So going into the freestyle round for my first time at Worlds, I knew that it was near enough impossible to win. You couldn't, like Mark, who eventually went on to win, he tested into first place and won. His freestyle round were amazing. So he won because every part of his competition was near enough perfect. If I'd have done a pour test that matched Mark's pour test, it would have been interesting to see.
Was the pour test like, obviously the one I was meant to be doing?
Yeah.
Like they line up all the glasses and you bounce everything, so all in one go.
All in one go.
So it was like that then.
Yeah.
So wow, okay, because that's like, it sounds, when I say it's 10 minutes, isn't it? It's 10 minutes.
10 minutes, 10-minute pour test.
It sounds like that's 5 minutes, but it's not, isn't it?
No.
10 minutes goes like that. So
you literally finish it and there'll be 30 seconds left on the clock.
Wow. Okay.
So you've got to go in there and you've just got to focus, you've got to do it and not worry about the 10 minutes. It can be done in the 10 minutes, but it is just about done in 10 minutes.
Yeah, no. So when I was practicing, I was like, I think about 8 bottles, all lined up, all like ready, because you got your Flair pours as well.
Yeah.
So, like going, when this bottle is like here, put that to one side because you can use that for your Flair. Yeah. So it was like
after that year that I did the first one, they split the pour test into 2 pour tests. Gotcha. So you did a routine pour test, and then the time stopped, and then you did an actual, I think you did a Flair test, which included pour testing. But so then they reveal the scores, and I'm in 8th place, and I looked at it like, it doesn't sound much, but I'm like 30 points behind Mark, purely because of the pour test.
Yeah. And
you look at the scoring at the work. So again, for the UK final, it was very rare that you saw the judges' sheets. You didn't but I think the way that the freestyle round was scored in the UK allowed for very big margins in discretionary points. So if you went on and nailed a perfect routine and someone did a bang average routine, they would score that massively different. Whereas the scorecard, the judges' sheets for Worlds, 2 or 3 of the judges just had technical score sheets, which was making the drinks right, spills and drops, and putting napkins down, or like they were just like tick box
basics.
And then the ones who had discretionary points very rarely seemed to give everybody like changes in score. So if you went on and did a really amazing routine that in the UK might get you 100 points more than the other guy, in Worlds it didn't really seem to work like that. It didn't seem to work like that. So I knew that it was very much impossible for me to catch up to even place from 8th place. So I was kind of like a bit of a free hit, really.
Well, you came 4th though.
Yeah, so that's what I was just going to say. So I went on there, and I had nothing to lose because I never knew that I was then going to go and have 4 more goes at it. I thought this might be my only chance.
Yeah.
My only chance to stand on a big stage at the World Final and put me as Russel Ward from Sheffield representing Fridays UK, put my thing on the World Final, put my stamp on it. So I just literally went and gunned it. Like I went all out, and it were amazing. Like the reaction that I got, the judges were just like jaw dropping. Like I did everything that I could ever imagine I wanted to do at a World Final, knowing that I couldn't win, but moved up 4 places.
That is incredible. I mean, because the thing was as well, because I will mention this because I was obviously I was at the time aware of what was going on. So yeah, you've won it 5 times, UK champion. But there was obviously like a stigma around it where people were going, "Oh, should we just do because of you?"
Yeah,
because of you, they were going to go like, "Should we do that when you win the UK final, that you whether there was a pause, you couldn't go into the year after, so you gave an opportunity." I mean, that whether it's a good thing or bad thing, there's quite a praise on you because they're going, he's unbeatable. He's sort of like everyone's turning around going like, this guy will keep on winning and winning and winning. I mean, deep down inside, there's part of you that's probably going like, it's not fair that I have to give up, what I do love. But at the same time, it's sort of a flattery pat on the back that you've had to retire me because there's no one in the UK that can come close.
Yeah.
So did you feel that as well?
Well, I think after 3, there were a little bit of like, well, you've been to Worlds 3 times now and you've not won, so do you want to give someone else a chance? But there's nothing in the rules that says you can't keep going back.
Yeah, but also you did come second and second, so like you must have been in your head go, this could be my year, this could be my year. So you won it and you've gone second. You go in. Is this like a procedure? You just go like, I've come second now. This is my year. Did you think that was the normal process?
Well, my thought process was, right, I've done that. Yeah, I finished second, and we can talk about all the reasons why I finished second, and what went wrong and what I needed to change. And a lot of it, I thought, can I do any more? This was the thought that, like, can I actually do any more than what I'm doing now to win it? And a lot of the time I thought, well, no, because it's such fine margins. Like I've finished in second because of a few seconds here and there on a speed round, or because I didn't ask the bar back for a product when I should have and put the wrong ingredient in.
Well, you did.
So
When you came second, 2013.
Yeah.
Because I like getting stats out so people are aware. Because obviously we can talk and go like, oh wow, he's done quite a lot. But you actually did come second. Like you've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 world finals.
Yeah.
You came 4th, second, 3rd, and 2nd.
Yeah.
Which on paper is, when you look at it, 5 times UK final, 5 times world championships, and I mean, that itself is just, that's why you're on a program called Legends Were Bartending. It is like absolutely amazing that you've done it. I mean, was there we've had our discussions, and that throughout the entire, you've always turned around and been quite open about it and been quite, I've made a mistake here, I've made a mistake there. That's what's cost me the world championships. Was there at any stage where you thought, maybe this is my year, this is the time that I've won it?
I think once I'd done the first Worlds, I realised that I was good enough to win it. I think that were maybe the first time I went. I probably thought, well, I'm going to get like Mark, for instance, from Japan.
Yeah.
This guy could flair, like flair that I could only ever dream of. So I watch something like that and think, he's really good. He's got the whole package.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like he could test and he could flair. Amazing,
Yeah.
right? After Mark, every bartender in the world final is good. Don't get me wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
You don't get to world finals just by.
Because you're okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone there is very, very, very good at what they do. But after that, I looked and thought, well, I'm as good as them. In fact, some of them didn't test very well, which amazed me.
Yeah.
At the world final, some of the compulsory testing scores wouldn't happen in the UK final.
No, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? Like the standard at the UK final through the technical tests has always been very, very good. Whereas there were always a few people who, through nerves or through whatever, at the world final had bad testing scores.
Yeah.
So you knew that if you tested well, you were going to be in the top 50% anyway, because some people would have a bad day. So once I realised that, I was like, well, I'm good enough to win it now. You know what I mean? If I knuckle down and do the right amount of practice,
Yeah.
I could be world champion.
Yeah.
When we went back, because then 2012 is when me and Ashley, 2013 is when me and Ashley tied. So both of us went to the final. So with the world final, before you go to do the competition,
Where did Ashley come? I didn't really realise.
right? So he made a drink wrong on his freestyle round,
Okay.
and it dropped him out of the top 3.
Okay. So I think he came fourth, didn't he? Fourth or
I
something.
think he probably finished 4th, yeah. But me and Ashley tied at the UK final.
Yeah.
Went to world final, did the compulsory testing, got the same score.
Wow.
So me and Ashley went into the freestyle round tied in 2nd place. Andy Bro was in 1st place, the American guy, and me and Ashley were tied in 2nd.
Because that must be some kind of tension there alone. That must be like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we went to Worlds together. So before you go to Worlds, you go to what they call like a boot camp, which unfortunately for you, you missed out because
exactly.
Your competition were too late. And at boot camp, what they did were they gave you essentially every single scoring sheet that's going to be used at the final.
Yeah.
So it's in black and white. These are the points, and this is how you score the points.
Yeah.
So there were nothing hidden. So nobody turned up and went, well, I didn't know that were going to happen. Or you screwed me over there because there was this test and I didn't know it, and I didn't know you were going to score it like that. You all meet up, you go there for a week. While you're there, you do trial runs of everything so you can see the pour test. You can see all the setup of it. They do media day, so you go and have all your photos taken, videos, and they do all that kind of stuff. When me and Ashley went, we actually went to the Global Business Conference, which were in Florida, to have the boot camp. And we sit down in a room with all the other bartenders, and they gave us the pack with all the stuff in it, and it were all international and US drinks. So it weren't any, the book was nothing to do with UK. So we had to learn 100 recipes that we never made. Even the Long Islands were different. Everything were different. And it were at that rollout, at that boot camp, that they introduced the 3-ounce measuring cup as well. So all liquor could be free poured, but any non-alcoholic mixers and purees had to be measured in the cup. In the cup.
Yeah.
So we came back from boot camp and it were like, this is, forget Russel Ward Master Bartender, TGI Fridays UK.
It still starts again.
It started again, like literally from fresh, having to write every single drink out, memorize the drinks, work out, their working order were different.
Yeah.
And the way that the organisers then started scoring the competition as well, which is right, it's the right thing to do, was everything had an execution, a way of doing it. So, for instance, like I've got like a US manual here. If it says to do like a straight up drink that you'd shake with ice, the procedure is literally written like fill Boston glass with ice, pour ingredients in order they are written. You know, like if I didn't put ice in a Boston glass first in the UK competition, it wouldn't matter. Does it really matter anyway? You know, you can debate that all day long. For this competition, it mattered.
Yeah. So
you had to learn every single execution point to get the points on speed round and in freestyle round, and do them in a different order, and make drinks that you never made on a shift, with different ingredients, different color codes, different purees. It would really, really testing it, because US and international, they kept moving forward with their drinks, and they kept changing their recipes year on year, maybe twice a year. For us, the UK, that book stayed the same forever.
A long time, yeah.
So even year on year, you kind of knew what were coming. Whereas this every time I went to Worlds, it was a different set of recipes.
Different worlds, yeah. Well, this would cheer you up. Did you know, like, Pete Marshall was the first person to win the propeller in the World Finals? So he was, it was the first one. So we were just saying about funny jokes. This is, well, it's not a joke. Well, it's just it's not even funny. It's just really bad. Obviously, you've heard of the guy called Brian Zacher.
I met him at my first Worlds, yeah.
First Worlds. So at the time, Pete Marshall was the world champion. So he was asked to judge the competition. So I'm not sure if you know this story, but so Brian Zacher knew about Pete being the first person to win the propeller. So he thought it would be a great idea to do a little propeller on a glass. So when Pete orders a cocktail, it would come in this nice glass, and you get these, brownie points because it's got that little small propeller.
Yeah.
So what happened was Pete's turned around and gone like, "Can I have a strawberry daiquiri?" So Brian's like, "Oh, okay," and he's like, got a Collins glass, which is obviously not the right glass for a daiquiri. So he's sort of panicking. So he ended up like putting the right drink in the wrong glass.
Yeah.
And because of that, Pete's turned around to the judges and gone like, "What do I do?" He's made the right drink, but in the wrong glass, and because of anything else. And so Brian Zacher, I don't think even he knows this. He lost by 3 points for the entire competition, and the whole drink was for 5 points. So he lost the world finals because he put the wrong drink in the wrong glass to impress the judge.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So there's that should cheer you up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've got literally every year I finish second, I can tell you where the points were lost.
really,
That's literally where I can. And away from the UK competition, the Worlds is the one where after you've finished, you've already seen all your points for the first bit, because they do the big reveal, so you know what you've scored. You have a phone call afterwards to go through your scoring, so you know what you've scored. And on the one where I finished second to Andy Bro, and part of it is I don't want to make excuses, because I think that's the wrong thing to do about.
Yeah.
I think the challenges, there were more challenges for me and Ashley that year because of us having to learn all them drinks, having to use the measuring cup, and just adapt to not doing the UK drinks. Again, it's like muscle memory. You've been doing it for so long. You know, you just pick things up. You recognise all the ingredients. You recognise all the colour codes.
Yeah.
There can be the difference in milliseconds and seconds of just having to look or work, processing your brain.
Yeah.
No matter how much revision you've done, and I could reel the colour codes off.
Yeah.
It wasn't the natural thing to grab certain colours, and especially when using one hand, using the measuring cup as well. But that year, Andy Bro beat me, I think, by 7 points, right? And on speed round, I had an issue with a Red Bull drink. It wasn't quite clear whether speed round at that time, and it's probably a question. This again, I don't want to make excuses because it's probably my fault.
Yeah.
I probably should have found out whether, because some competitions, speed round was classed as front bar, and on other competitions it was classed as service bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the drink called for liquor and mixer, and then Red Bull, 4 ounce of Red Bull. But if it was at the table, you poured the Red Bull. So if it were in service bar, you would just sit the can down because the dub would take the can. So there's the Red Bull drink, and I literally, for a few seconds, while I'm doing it, was asking the organisers, is this front bar or is this service bar? I couldn't really remember what had been said, or if it had ever been asked. You know, like, did anyone ask that question? And what I didn't want to do is pour the Red Bull if I didn't have to. If I could just sit the can down and go time, because it was the last drink that I were making. Anyway, no one's kind of answering me. I'm like, I'm still working. I'm like, is this? And I think I kind of remember a few people like looking round, like no one kind of knew the answer as such. When we did with Martina after the competition,
what did you do? Did you pour the Red Bull? Or...
Well, no, I just sat it down.
Oh, you just sat it down, okay.
I just sat it down, but I kind of stood there for a few seconds with the kind of Red Bull in my hand going, what am I doing? Service. Eventually, I just went time, put it down time. Martina, when we did the breakdown of the thing, I said, what about the issue with the Red Bull? And she went, well, we kind of didn't work. We'd not made it clear. So we gave points for either, which is fair enough. You could have done either.
Yeah, okay.
The problem were, if you went less than 4 minutes, you didn't lose points.
Gotcha.
You went over 4 minutes, they deducted 10 points. Andy Bro went 350 something. Yeah.
Okay.
So he was seconds away from being deducted 10 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would have put him in second place because he'd have lost the 10 points. I'd have won by 3.
Yeah.
Martina tells me I went 401.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, that's the fine margins. All the challenges of learning all them recipes, learning all these different drinks, doing all that stuff came down to putting that can of Red Bull on the bar top because I'd managed to do all the other stuff. I'd managed to learn it all and pass all those other tests.
To a speed round. So like we actually like see, because there's probably some of these questions in there. So favourite pour, 1 3/4 or 2 ounce?
Oh, horrible, both of them.
Really? Oh.
I mean,
favourite pour?
I always seem to outthink. I always beat myself over pour testing.
Yeah.
Like literally, I think it was because I did so badly at the first Worlds that after that, I realised that how badly it could go wrong.
So this is like when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, you probably say what pour test would be your weakness if there was a weakness.
Yeah, and the main reason being that it was all in here.
Yeah.
It weren't actually doing it. It was just I could over practice pour testing.
Yeah.
Like I'd literally turned for months of the year, my kitchen was just glassware everywhere.
Yeah.
just doing that pour test over and over again. Lead up to the regionals, lead up to the UK final, and then from winning the UK final, I knew what were coming at Worlds. I would have the kitchen set up, literally pour testing. I'd do the full Worlds pour test maybe 4 or 5 times a day.
Fridays favourite food? What was your favourite food in Fridays?
Burgers. Honestly, yeah.
Did you have a Friday's favourite drink?
Do you know what? I used to really like drinking caipirinhas back in the day.
Okay.
I'm not a massive fan of like really sweet, juicy, you know, like punch fruit cocktails. I'm a big fan of any kind of mule. So like a dark and stormy, Irish mules. They were Irish mules were popular in the world final. They were they did them in the little copper mugs with the sugar rim on them.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Okay, cocktail of the movie. Loved it, hate it, and also, did you ever go to the first ever TGI Fridays?
I've watched the film a few times. I don't think you can not like it, can you? It's cheesy and it's yeah. I've never been to the original Fridays, no.
No, never like, because you've been to New York a few times,
I
haven't
went
you?
to New York a couple of times, yeah. We did the Global Business Conference one year in New York,
Yeah.
but we didn't go to the original Fridays. It's not a Fridays anymore, is it? Is it like a...
I think it's like Chinese takeaway.
Yeah.
Oh, Indian takeaway, I think it
I've
is.
been to Fridays in Dallas, which is quite an old one.
Yeah.
Because I think Dallas was on it was Dan Scoggins that took Fridays from
Yeah.
New York around America, and I think he was from Texas or around that area. So some old Fridays around there.
Yeah.
He was an interesting guy to meet, to be fair, Dan Scoggins.
Yeah.
Because he obviously made Fridays what
Because
it is.
was he the like the potato skins and the wing guy?
So when
The
he
wing guy.
actually came over to judge the competition that me and Ashley won.
Yeah.
I got a dub from Fridays to make me cake that looked like potato skins.
Yeah. You're saying this. Yeah, I remember.
So it literally in the Fridays bowl with like cream as the sour cream, and she made something to look like the onions, and they looked exactly like potato skins.
Was his reaction to it? Was he pleased?
So I loved it. And then the weird couple of years later, which is when I went to New York, I walked into the hotel and he was there. And this guy obviously remembered who I were.
Wow.
And I ended up sat down with him, having a drink with him and his wife, just chatting to this guy who's like made Fridays. He like sails around the world now, retired.
I can imagine. Oh. So service bar or front bar?
Front bar, I would say.
Very cool.
I used to really enjoy service bar. Now, again, I don't want to be negative towards people's decisions, but towards my last year or so at Fridays, I couldn't do service bar on my own.
Really?
even as a master bartender,
Yeah.
it became impossible to do on a Saturday night. With draft beer, all the milkshakes, all the muddling, all the other cocktails that we were doing, you end up with like 12, 13, 14 tickets on. You'd have to get somebody to come and chip in.
Just pull pints.
You physically couldn't, and that used to stress the hell out of me. That somebody who took such pride in the work,
what you do, yeah,
I couldn't physically manage, which it must be so hard for new bartenders coming in. Well, when they reopen, I think there is a new drinks menu being launched.
There is. I think. I mean, we had a meeting yesterday, and I think they're just going back into Fridays with the same drinks.
Yeah.
Just until things. I mean, because they're trying to go back to old school drinks like Negronis and espresso martinis and brambles.
For the size of some stores and the volumes that they do, for a new bartender who maybe doesn't have other experienced bartenders around him, service bar must be like a living hell.
Yeah, it must be. or they just not doing it properly. It could be one of the ones. It could be just, as you say, when you do everything by the book, there is that, and then sometimes it's just about getting the drinks out.
Yeah,
fixed amount of time. So did you have a favourite trick that you used to do behind the bar, whether it was a magic trick or Flair trick?
So it was a magic trick. My favourite was a magic trick, but it got ruined when the smoking ban came in because you needed an ashtray.
Oh, okay.
But it literally was the magic trick that I learned from a DVD that I bought.
Go on.
Like the Dean Nielsen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did like a Flair. It was really cheesy old DVD that I bought off the internet. And it was magic and Flair combined on this like and it basically was where you got a bev nap and you got somebody to write a number on the bev nap.
Nice.
And you'd set fire to the bev nap.
Yep.
In the ashtray, put your hand over the ashtray, and when you lifted your hand up, you had the number written on your hand.
Nice.
Yeah, and I practiced it and I had it perfect.
Yeah.
And the reaction was amazing, and I felt like a proper magician as well doing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just.
I used to do the one with the used to get the ashtray. There was a little bit of ash. and you put your finger on the ash, and then you go, put your hands like this, and then you bring them closer, and then you just put a cigarette on their hand, and the ash will be in the inside of the hand, and they'd be like, oh wow, so that one. I was actually thinking you was going down that line. I was going.
You were a little bit more technical than that.
Oh.
But it were when you executed it properly, especially families, you know, with little kids or whatever, and you could get them to write the name on it.
Yeah.
And by the time you've done all your magic, and then you lift your hand up, and their name is written on your hand, and it's like it's come from the fire in the ashtray. I used to love that trick.
Okay. Beatles or the Oasis?
I'd have to say Oasis, to be fair. I don't think I've really listened to the Beatles.
Best joke, you know, or a joke, you know. Got any jokes?
Yeah, loads.
Go on, tell me one then.
I'm more of a like one-liner kind of thing. Anyway, so when I woke up this morning, bedroom were just absolutely full of eggs. There were just eggs everywhere. Yeah, I'd overlaid.
Nice. Okay, cool. It's like I'm liking the joke thing. I think it's really good. Obviously Pete last week done a really good one as well. So, so the most famous person you've ever served?
Gary Barlow.
Gary Barlow. Wow.
Yeah, back in Sheffield. Bank holiday Monday. And do you know what? It took me probably half an hour before I even recognised who we were. He was with there's quite a famous music producer from Sheffield called Elliot Kennedy, and he were a regular in Fridays, Elliot Kennedy. And it were Bank Holiday Monday. They got a wait on for tables. Elliot came to the bar with this other guy, who at first I didn't recognise. And I think as they were waiting for the table, the bar kind of cleared, and Elliot had said, "Oh, is it all right if we just stay here instead of moving to a table?" And then, like, about half an hour later, someone went, "You do realise who that is, don't you?" Yeah. Harry Barlow sat the bar.
With his highlights, was it?
Yeah, I think I have served quite a few of the famous people through doing events.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Did you ever get? I know you done radio, a bit of radio. Did you do any TV appearances?
Not over here, no.
No, because this is
a regular spot on Radio Sheffield for. Yeah. I still do now, to be fair.
Really?
They ring me up. Normally around Christmas, they always want a Christmas cocktail special.
So, did you ever anything go wrong in your Flair? Like, did you break something, have an injury, or take somebody out in the process of flaring?
Regularly, I think. Not always just at work. It's happened in competitions. I've even got a video somewhere of me doing a Flair competition in Leeds where mid move the pour spout flings out and hits somebody in the crowd. Right. You know, because I'd not taped it in properly.
Okay.
And I literally, as I spin the bottle, you see the pour spout, like this poor girl who stood at the front of the stage, just get the pour spout straight in the head.
I know, like, I'll probably mention this hopefully when I speak to Neil Gardner, if I remember. But I remember, like, obviously what you said, which is quite good because they're all crossing over, where they used to do like big Flair shows. And I remember, like, I think it was for Behind Bars at the time, and it was a really packed bar, and he would stand on the bar and start flaring. And the organisers would go around try and push people back and say, you know, this is quite dangerous, you know, get back, loads of space and all this stuff. And Neil's done a helicopter, and he took a woman's head off with a helicopter. And at the time, he was like, well, we did say get down, you know, clear anything else. But yeah, I was like, so you just started saying helicopters and stuff like this. I was going, yeah, you just know he's going to have trouble. So this is where, like, I'll give you a couple of seconds to think of a confession. So something you've done, which obviously, like, so actually I'm going to use the story because I always come out with my own story. And this story, you probably know this one about me. Because at the time it was 2011. So, and I think the word got round, but no one really knew about it. So we done Britain's Got Talent, and there was 4 of us. Yeah. Okay. And so the confession was, because I had to think back, I was thinking, I ain't done much things wrong. And then my brain started thinking, I've gone, that's not true. So I was going, so the story was, Britain's Got Talent, and there was me, Owen, Ozzy, and Campbell, Mr. T.
Yeah.
So we was doing Britain's Got Talent. So we done really well. We got to the stage part, and so we was meant to be doing Flair on the stage. So I won't go into too much details, but the thing was being Mr. T at the time, it was all about Snicker bars, and basically he was getting nuts and everything else. So when Paul Campbell done his Flair routine on stage, we throw Snicker bars out into the crowd. Okay, so you obviously know the story.
I know the story.
Because at the time, so on my last, because it was really weird because we did this routine and we were the last people on stage, and the judges were tired, the crowd was tired, and everyone was like not buying into our routine. So when Paul Campbell ripped open his top and he's got all the chains and he's Mr. T, the crowd erupts. It goes crazy. It's like, wow, we're a hit. So all of a sudden, I'm relaxed and I'm throwing Snicker bars everywhere else and everything else, and we're buzzing, literally buzzing. And my last one, I throw across, and it going towards Amanda Holden's head, and I'm like going, please don't hit her in the head. And it doesn't. It dips and it hits her in the chest. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the guys are looking at me, and we're going like, just keep going, just keep going like this. And all of a sudden, it's like, all the buzzing goes on, and we're like, oh no, this is it. It's all over and done with. And so all of a sudden, from that day, the word got out through Fridays, and let's just say that when we done the the Guinness Book of Records, people were throwing Snicker bars at me all day long. So I never went out without a Snicker bar. That was really, really cool. Also, what people didn't realise that in in Basildon, we had a chocolate machine with Snickers. And at the time, this is really sick actually. Amanda Holden lost her baby to like just in general, and they put it on that she was allergic to nuts. So they were literally put a newspaper thing on the Snicker bar machine. So for the whole year, I was like tormented. And I apologize to the guys because we did work quite hard on the routine, and we was going to do really, really well, but I seem to have ruined it for everyone. So that's my confession. So that's done. So on that note, yeah, your turn.
If anything, confession wise, I'd probably just like to apologise to all the barbacks, essays, any new starters at Friday Sheffield that ended up having to get the air out of the walk-in fridge with the bin liners for half an hour. No, need to bag it up and bring
Really?
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is so bad.
or go and fetch the left-handed knife from the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely awesome. So yeah, so I mean, like, again, thank you so much for doing all this. This is absolutely awesome. But again, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah,
What you
just,
at the moment?
yeah, email or Facebook or LinkedIn or any of them.
Well, that was actually so great to have you on board. I mean, like,
Yeah, are you getting chance to go to Worlds or the?
well, because of coronavirus, I think like everyone, until you start getting numbers up, nothing's going to really happen. So,
You've not lost your place.
yeah, I don't know whether I lost my place or not. Because you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, to stand there this year, well, last year, and to hold two, propellers above my head and be #1 Flair and #1 bartender is
Amazing.
like, as I said, I mean, you go to the World Finals, and I think it said like, obviously, I have come third, and when you give it all, you have no regrets. I don't think. I mean, when I spoke to, which I found quite interesting, when I spoke to Pete Marshall and Tony Adams, who won the World Championships, they're very, very relaxed about it. It's like, yeah, it's a great achievement and everything else, but life goes on, and it's one of the ones where they go, do you know what? It's about becoming a good bartender at the end of the day. And let's be honest, I mean, that's what we do. So, I mean, to be to class as like a rock star and everything else. It's just great, as you said. We're getting paid to go on a stage. We get our pictures up in lights, and it's a big. I mean, when you think about it, 13 years of just hanging out with your best friends. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm friends with you. I'm friends with loads of. Actually, all my friends, like majority, 90% of them, are all bartenders, and so you do make friends for life, and they stay around as well. I mean, like I've got friends from even from Lakeside days, still talk to each other, still, you know, so it's the best job ever. It's such awesome, and may it continue. So yeah, so we will see how it goes. But that's the reason why we're doing great things like this, because of some of the great bartenders that I've come across over the years, and made a difference as well. So like I'm just to say, like I'm just going through the achievements that you've sent over. It's an absolute honour to have you on this like podcasting. It's absolutely amazing. So, but I'll let you go. Obviously, enjoy the rest of your day. But my name's Rob Stevens. This is Legends in Bartending. Please subscribe, and look forward to doing the next one. Thank you very much, Russell. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Hey, cool.